Hey, I have a quick update. Obviously, some things have happened this week. One of them is something that happened to me, another one is something that happened to basically the whole stylish action game community. I'm going to go with the bad news first. The bad news is that the capture card is on the fritz again. It's been giving me a green screen whenever I try to use it, which makes no sense because, as you can see, I've been playing Dragon Quest Heroes 2 over the past few days, and it was working fine. And then just about a day or two ago, it started pulling that crap. I do have enough money to get another HDMI cable. I don't really know too much about HDMI cables. Apparently, a faulty cable can cause the green screen. At the same time, I don't want to buy a cable and then find out the card is just boned. The PS4 itself is fine. If I use the HDMI cable that's supposed to connect to the capture card, if I take that out and just plug it directly into the console, it works fine. So the PS4 is not bricked or anything. I was worried that would definitely be the worst thing that could happen. The friend of mine who sold me the capture card, I've only paid about half of it off. He said he's going to do what he can, but as of right now, basically Kamen Rider Climax Fighters is, it's called a Climax Heroes. I forget that they have two different fighting game series now. Climax Fighters is basically in jeopardy at the moment. I would still be able to buy it. It's just that I don't know how many of you played Battle War Genesis, and more specifically, how many of you played it on PS4. That game basically blocked everything through the built-in streaming. The only thing that you could do was pretty much, I think you could do like the title screen and survival mode. That was it. You couldn't do anything in story mode at all. So I can't imagine that this game is going to be any different. You might be able to get away with multiplayer. I would hope they wouldn't be stupid enough to lock the multiplayer for the streaming, because it's basically free publicity. But most of like Bandai Namco's licensed games tend to have really strict restrictions on the built-in streaming. So it's not even something that I could remotely rely on. I definitely would not be able to like explain the mechanics or do combo videos or anything really. I hope that I'll be able to get it fixed. Maybe tomorrow I will go take the bus and I'll get an HDMI cable. It is Cyber Monday today. I could get a higher quality one from Amazon, but obviously time is kind of running short. The game's going to be out in like 10 days, and I haven't pre-ordered it yet. I'm kind of glad that I haven't paid it off in full, because honestly I probably would not get it at all if I could not use the capture card, because Battle War Genesis performed really well for me. I was not really I didn't really go into it expecting to get a lot of views, because I did Bat War 2 shortly after it came out. I think like Kamen Rider Drive was like close to over. I don't think X or Ghost had started yet at that point, but I got it pretty early on, and not too many people cared. Genesis, on the other hand, like I have videos with tens of thousands of views for some reason, so I think it would be good for the growth of my channel to get it. I just can't really promise it at this point. It's kind of a bummer. I had a lot of stuff that I wanted to do. There's quite a bit going on. I transferred a lot of my Vita saves to PS4 for a lot of my cross-buy stuff, and I was going to work on some of that both before and after Climax Fighters. We don't know if Climax Fighters is going to be a good game. I have a feeling it might have shit netcode. It might be 30 FPS, which, you know, I did play a lot of Anarchy Reigns. It wouldn't completely be a deal breaker, but I definitely would prefer it to run at 60. I don't think it's coming out on PS3. I think it's one of the first. Actually, it is the first Tokusatsu game that's exclusive to the PS4. So I hope they'll be able to use that extra power to make it run better. Maybe they're using the Gundam engine or something. The game does seem to have some similarities to Gundam Versus, or the Gundam Versus series. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to put my stuff in the description. I'm also going to put a link to the next thing I'm going to talk about. There was a pretty massive DMC5 leak about a day or two ago. I don't remember exactly when it was, but as what's standard with Capcom leaks is like 90% of it ends up true. There's been a lot of leaks about Street Fighter 5. I believe most of the Season 2 roster was leaked months ago. I think like at the beginning of the year, actually. I think there may have been one or two characters. I didn't really follow that game too much. It's not really the kind of game that I care about particularly. But I remember that the characters were leaked by somebody, and I think it was mostly accurate. There's been a really massive leak for Marvel Infinite as well, and that one seems a little bit too good to be true. They were mentioning a lot of stuff like the X-Men coming back, having Jean, Asura. I don't think they mentioned a Basara character, but basically a lot of like the fan favorites would be coming back, in upcoming seasons. Obviously, this season's coming to an end on December 5th, so in about a week from today, actually, we're going to get the final 3 characters from the 2017 character pass. But this DMC5 leak looks really detailed. They didn't really go into detail about the gameplay too much, as I said that Dante is going to be playable. Apparently, it's going to have more open levels, which I'm not sure how I feel about. I hope that they won't go overboard. They mentioned that there's going to be 3 playable characters or something like that, so that probably means Dante, Nero, and Virgil. They seem to kind of be leading back to Virgil coming back. Not too much about the gameplay. They said that it may not be released at PSX, or may not be unveiled at PSX. They may hold it back for E3 because they did that conference in France, which had a lot of like the big AAA games and a bunch of VR stuff no one cares about. It seems like they're kind of de-emphasizing PSX, which is kind of weird because they did have a lot of megatons at E3. So they don't really have a concrete date on when it will be announced. I think, what is it called? The PSX is going to be the same date as the Capcom Cup. Basically, it's going to be the same event. It may get revealed there, otherwise it will probably be at E3 about 6 months later. It said that they're shooting for maybe as early as late next year or early 2019. Apparently, it's the longest it's been in development for, which makes sense because we've had so many hints about the game. It's pretty much their worst kept secret. I would be shocked. Obviously, not everything in that leak is going to be true, but I would be shocked if the game does not exist in some capacity. I mean, they made the special edition like 7 years after the original game came out. They put in that cutscene where they kind of allude to Virgil having a child, and it was kind of out of left field. I felt like they wanted to preserve the game further on consoles, but the game's been on PC for like almost 10 years now. So I mean, the game was already preserved well before they even thought about the special edition. But apparently, they have been working on the game since shortly after special edition wrapped. So it'd be the longest amount of time it's been in development. It seems like it's a pretty ambitious game. Obviously, character action games, some of them have been doing pretty well. Nier did pretty well. Nier is not really a character action game first and foremost. I hear that the mechanics weren't that great. I personally skipped it because I heard it was a depressing and brooding game, and I already have clinical depression, so it wasn't really something that I wanted to mess with. But that game sold really well, and I hear the mechanics are not too great, but apparently it sold well enough for them to consider continuing the series. And the first Nier game didn't really get anywhere near that kind of hype. I'm sure most of it comes from the the 2B character design, but I think it's pretty cool that they are going to attempt to make another one. My biggest concern with it is that there was absolutely no mention of anything resembling a training mode. Sorry, I have had a kind of a rough day. I can't really talk too well, but there's basically nothing resembling a training mode, and they mentioned trying to streamline the combat, like the dodging is probably going to be more in line with how it is in Bayonetta or other action games, kind of like God Eater. It's probably going to be some combination of that, where you dodge faster, you have a dedicated button for it, and it has less cooldown. It's not as awkward to use as the role is in the classic DMC games. But they don't really have anything about easing people into it. It's been one of the biggest problems with the Devil May Cry games. It's one of the reasons why I particularly don't play it anymore. A lot of the people who got really good at that game, most of them did not play on console. Most of them waited for the PC port. When the debug mode came out several years ago, that was when the game really got cracked open. Like I've mentioned this before, but that game would not be anywhere near the level of meta that it's at now if it was not for that training mode. And one of my biggest concerns is that they're not going to have a training mode in it yet again, and it's basically going to be another barrier of entry to get to the community. You know how often they have DMC4 SE on sale on PSN, and for all intents and purposes, that version is functionally useless for like getting better at the game. You're at such a huge disadvantage compared to somebody who has a PC that can run it, which luckily, you don't really need a really heavy-duty PC to run Special Edition. The system requirements did go up a little bit because of all the special effects, graphical effects that they added that you can't turn off for some reason that they never patched out. But still, if you're a person that only has a PS4 or an Xbox One, it is so much harder to learn that game versus somebody who has it on PC. I hope that that's something that they will address. Honestly, I don't think it's going to sell as well. It's not going to grow the community unless they have resources in there. They're also going to need to work on the replay value. The replay value in for a casual person, the replay value in Devil May Cry games is not that great. You can pretty much unlock everything in a playthrough and a half, and the rest is pretty much just playing through it on harder difficulties, which, depending on how dedicated or bored or or broke, or whatever your situation is, that's not really a whole lot of material replay value. I think it would be great. I've mentioned this before, but they should have like daily challenges. I think they should support the game and try to make it into more of a service. I know that's a controversial thing right now. I don't mean loot boxes, and I don't want to pay $5 for a chance to get Cerberus back. Like, I don't mean anything like that. I mean just like supporting the game with good post-launch content. Like maybe they could have weapons or extra Bloody Palace modes or some kind of daily challenge or something. That's the kind of stuff that I'm interested in, because obviously you see me play these games and I can mess around with the combo systems way longer than most people would, but most people are still going to get bored, just going to finish the game in 6 to 7 hours and get bored and trade it in, and the series is going to fall into obscurity again. I hope that they're putting some serious thought into how they're going to keep people interested past the campaign, because that's been an issue with most character action games, honestly. Bayonetta 2 is pretty ambitious with the tag climax, but being Wii U exclusive, as far as I know, that mode died pretty quickly. I think that was a really cool way to kind of keep people interested, as I don't really know much about that game. I know about all its shortcomings. I played through the first half of it, and I really didn't like the game. But as far as I know, there were some unlockables tied to that. I think that's the kind of thing that they should do. They should have some kind of supplemental content. Like, how roguelikes like 20XX, like that has a daily run, like Spelunky has that, Nuclear Throne. A lot of the big popular roguelikes have those kinds of modes that keep people playing. It's definitely something that they should look into. The leak seems like it's basically going to be true. A lot of the stuff is like in pretty intense detail, and Capcom seems to have a terrible issue with not being able to keep their upcoming projects secret. I would be surprised if it isn't true. A lot of us are hoping for a PSX announcement, but that leak pretty much says that it may not happen in time. It may be something that we had to wait till E3 for. This last E3, the one that just happened this year, was pretty underwhelming. It was mostly just big AAA games. They didn't really have a whole lot of stuff for people who play niche games, even like less specifically Japanese games. There wasn't a whole lot. There's pretty much Monster Hunter, and then they had the story demo for Marvel Infinite, which I'm sure, if you remember, was one of the reasons why that game got such bad publicity before it even came out. That demo was trash. They didn't even bother to put in the tutorial that's in the story mode to help ease you into the game. You pretty much just mash buttons against robots and stuff with the Ultron drones that die in like 2 combos. It didn't really help much, so maybe they're planning to save DMC5 so they have a Megaton that's not a big AAA game. As far as we know, a lot of the big like Western studios, a lot of those games may not even be out by the time E3 is on the horizon, and if they are, they'll be so close that it wouldn't be something that they would really feasibly waste time on at an E3 conference. So that's basically what's going on. This little long, kind of 2 big things to talk about. I don't know what's going to happen with the capture card. Obviously, I don't particularly like Dragon Quest Heroes that much. It is fun to grind on, but it's very slow. It's definitely got a lot of issues. The hyper armored HP sponge enemies kind of get on my nerves. The dumb AI as well. But more importantly, this is going to impact my ability to play Climax Fighters. I may not even get it. I may just buy like some Closers cash shop credit or something. If anything else is coming out next month, go ahead and let me know in the comments if you want to help with whatever the repairs may be. Ideally, I would like to get a card today, but I only have like $40 left. So I don't think anybody's selling a $40 capture card. Ideally, it would be nice to get one, but I don't think I can bum any money off anybody. So unfortunately, I may have to put Climax Fighters on hold. My friend did contact AverMedia, and they did ask him what was wrong with the card, but that was like the beginning of this month, and we still haven't heard back from them. So ideally, they would just give us a replacement, and I could give them this one back and then pay off the rest and be done with it. But I'm not really sure if that's going to happen at this point. So if you want to help, my stuff is in the description. If you want to see the DMC5 leak, which, like I said, apparently the person who leaked it has some kind of credibility. I don't remember whatever else it is that he leaked, but I think it's mentioned in there. The guy said that if the leak is not true, that he would even take a ban on Reset Era. So it seems like he's got some kind of credible source that's telling him this stuff. And like I said, pretty much everything else that the Capcom has been working on has been leaked to some capacity over the past year or two. So it probably is true. I hope that they will work on the replay value, make it a little more accessible to get better at the game, and I think it'll be definitely something that I'll put way more time into than I did for. Anyway, catch you guys later. I apologize in advance if I'm not able to do anything with the capture card. I will make my best effort to get this working. It may be as simple as fixing the HDMI cable, but it still has the problem where the signal cuts out, so it's never really been an ideal situation. I'll do the best I can. I'll keep you guys posted. If you want to help, my stuff's in the description. I'll catch you guys later. Peace.